Good afternoon. This is Blake from the Red Bank Church of Christ. I just wanted to bring you a few more thoughts from the His Life Devotional this week. We're wrapping up our idea of focusing on Jesus Passion Week, and we've gone through a few things. The Devo itself has gone through the washing of the disciples' feet. Wednesday we talked about the betrayal. Jesus saying that someone is going to betray him. And then today we are focusing on a little parable that's told in this farewell discourse that's in John. Um, so at the end of chapter 14, um, this whole section 14 through 17 is Jesus saying his last words to his disciples before his arrest and crucifixion. And at the end of 14, it seems that they've gotten up from the table where they were eating and they're making their way to the Garden of Gethsemane. And on the way to the garden, um, Jesus, as the writer points out, and as Jesus commonly does, he uses events and things around him to point to what is truly happening. A lot of times, his disciples, the people around him, didn't understand what was really going on, what Jesus meant, what he was doing, why he was here. And so Jesus draws on different things to try to explain them truths about who he is, what he's doing, and what they need to do. And in John chapter 15, we have a short little parable of Jesus drawing on some things around him to tell the disciples what they need to be doing. And he uses this example of a vine and a vine on a tree and the fruit that it produces. And he tells his disciples that as this vine stays connected, or as this fruit stays connected to the vine, right? Um, so we need to stay connected to Jesus. We need to abide in Him. And then you have this. You have Jesus telling them that He is the true vine, right? Abide in me. And then He says, apart from me, you can do nothing. In verse 5, I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. and and that seems pretty harsh language, and it is. I think it's meant to be that harsh, and I don't think it's um, like a selfish saying of Jesus or anything like that, but almost a plea. He's telling his followers to stay connected to him. He knows that some stuff is about to happen that's going to rock their world, right? They knew a little bit of who Jesus was, like they knew he was the Messiah, and they knew he was um, from God, right? They knew that he was something special, but they had no clue that this path he was on was going to end with him on a cross. And of course that's not where it truly ends. He does rise after that, but this idea of the crucifixion is about to rock their world, right? And he's telling them a lot of things are going to be said. You're going to see a lot of things, and it could cause you to lose heart, but stay connected to me. And I think we live in a world of distractions, right? There's no surprise that there are things that constantly compete for our attention and compete um, against God for our attention, right? And a lot of times it's we compare the idols in the Old Testament to some idols that we may have, and I think that's true. Like, there are definitely some things that can take up our um, attention and time and devotion, but I think a big problem that we have now is just the mindset that we don't really need Jesus. We don't really need God. We can do this on our own, right? And I think that's more of a similar parallel that we can make with the Old Testament. The God's people in the Old Testament felt like they were looking around to the nations around them and to their gods, and they saw the success and the power in the other nations, and they're like, wow, we want to be like those guys. So they worship their gods, right? And over and over, the prophets tell them, like, stop, do not worship these guys. You can't find true power. You can't find anything outside of God. and and Isaiah picks up on this language, and he actually tells a story that talks about the foolishness of idols. He wants them to realize how how foolish it is to trust in these idols, and he tells a really interesting story that in chapter 44. So it's Isaiah 44, starting in verse 12. So he's going to show the foolishness of idolatry. He's going to tell a story of a man who takes wood and fashions his own idol and worships this piece of wood that he made, and then uses the rest of it to make a fire to cook for himself. It just, the comparison of the foolishness of what he's doing. Um, so I'm going to read along if you want to read with me to pick up this language that he's talking about. So starting in verse 12, the ironsmith takes a cutting tool and works it over the coals. He fashions it with hammers and works it in his strong arm. He becomes hungry and his strength fails. He drinks no water and is faint. The carpenter stretches a line. He marks it out with a pencil. He shapes it with planes and marks it with a compass. He shapes it into the figure of a man. He's beauty of a man, with the beauty of a man to dwell in a house. So he's just painting this scene of a guy who's drawing out all the lines and cuts that he needs to make on this piece of wood to fashion it into the figure of a man that he's going to put in the middle of his house to worship. He cuts down cedars in verse 14, or he chooses a cypress tree or an oak and lets it grow strong among the trees in the forest. He plants a cedar and the rain nourishes it. Then it becomes fuel for a man. He takes a part of it and warms himself. He kindles a fire and bakes bread. Also, he makes a god and worships it, and makes it an idol and falls down before it. Half of it he burns into the fire, the other half he eats meat. He roasts it and is satisfied. Also, he warms himself and says, ah, I'm warm, I have seen the fire. And the rest of it he makes into a god, his idol, and falls down to it and worships it, and prays to it and says, deliver me, for you are my God. He just goes over and paints a pretty graphic picture of the foolishness of bowing down to this piece of wood that you made and asking it to deliver you. He's saying, how in the world can you find deliverance or power in this piece of wood that you grew and that you cut and that you made with your own hands? That's not where true power lies. True power lies in God. And I think that's what Jesus is trying to get across to his disciples right before he's about to leave them. He says a lot of things are going to try to pull you away from trusting in me. A lot of things are going to try to grab at your attention and try to distance you away from trust in me. But I want you to stay connected to what I've told you and what I'm about to do, and stay connected to me. So as the writer says, today I will remove the distractions and distance between my Lord and me, and I will seek him and claim the promise. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. James chapter 4, verse 8. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and we hope to see you here on Sunday. And if not, we'll see you next time we get to interact. God bless.